here we go. At the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack 2023 Fantasy Football Team Previews. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me today is Jordan Schultz. What's up, man?
Man, not too much. Just getting ready to keep knocking these East previews out.
All right, man. Yeah, so tonight, or today, I guess, we're recording during the day this time. We are going to be talking about the New York Giants. But before we jump into that, I want to ask you all to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave those comments. We appreciate it. And, of course, go over to FantasySixPack.net/plan to become an all-access member. You're going to get access to our draft cheat sheet, our projections, our award-winning rankings, our Discord as well, where you get to ask all of us your custom league questions so that we can help you dominate your drafts and your regular season. Without further ado, though, man, let's jump into things here. And with the New York Giants quarterback room, we got Mr. Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, and Tommy DeVito. So, Daniel Jones had a little bit of a breakout last year. Finally, saw. This is what everybody was hoping for, right? This is what everybody hoped we would get after year one, where he kind of came in, limited exposure, and looked really good, right? But just what really is Daniel Jones' ceiling this year?
I feel like we might have just saw it, unless you are banking on him taking another step forward as a passer. We might have just saw it. So finished quarterback 9 overall last year. This was off of Fantasy Pros, I believe. So I think they do 4-point passing touchdowns there as their standard. So going off of that, finished with 293 total fantasy points. 105 of those came off the ground. So 36% of his total fantasy points came from rushing this year. I don't know how sustainable it is. The 2 years before that, where he was known as more of a runner, he only had 24 and 25% of his points coming off the ground, and a lot lower point totals too. Looking at him as a passer this year, he improved. Brian Dable put him in good situations. He went up 3 points on his completion percentage. But looking at the touchdown to interception, 15-5 is okay, but his big improvement was from 10-7. So 5 more touchdowns, cut off a couple interceptions. It wasn't like it was a huge breakthrough as a passer. Yeah. It was just more so he had a few games where he really took off as a runner. Right now, I'm seeing him go near the back end top 10 quarterbacks, especially in super flex leagues. And that's too expensive for me. And it's not just because of the star on my hat here. It's just I don't know how sustainable what he did is last year. I
100% agree with you. I've got him outside the top 10, just barely. But even then, I want to take guys like Tua ahead of him, but it's tough with Tua's history. Aaron Rodgers is even back there. Daniel Jones, you're really hoping for Dable to kind of keep the train rolling in the right direction with him. Look, nothing really got better for him in the offseason as far as weapons around, and we're going to get into that.
They just added a lot of them.
The receiving room is a lot, but it's not great, right? It's nothing that we're going oh yeah, there's the guy. Nope. It's just a lot, but it kind of worked last year. But like you said, 15 touchdowns.
That's top 10 quarterback.
It is really hard to be a top 10 quarterback with 15 passing touchdowns. I know Justin Fields probably did something similar, but no, thank you. He did 17, but he runs a whole lot more and is a whole lot more athletic. I feel like I'm trusting that a little bit more than I am.
Did you say Fields had 17 passing touchdowns last year? That if you would have told me who had more passing touchdowns, Daniel Jones or Fields last year, I would have thought even Jones, even only at 15. That's crazy.
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked when I just pulled that up now myself. But yeah, that's not a good sign. So. Yeah, I'm kind of out on Daniel Jones at his cost right now. I just think it is risky. You're really relying on him, running the ball the way he did. I'm just not sure that's what they want to do with him. So,
I mean, the moves that they made, they brought in a few field stretchers, traded for Darren Waller. So it seems that they want to make him more of a passer, but that kind of scares me as a fantasy owner. Like, I don't know if I want him, taking a bunch more passes, more like treat him like a baby Lamar and just run him.
yeah, baby Lamar. I don't know if we can go
like
there.
super.
I know you're talking
Lamar.
about
Like Kmart Lamar.
All right. Let's jump over here to the running back room. And, of course, we still got Mrs. Saquon Barkley. Matt Breida is there. Eric Gray and Gary Brightwell. Look, I'm posing the question to you, like, is Saquon firmly back into safe drafting territory in the top, 10 of drafts right now? Is he firmly back? Because last year people were out.
I think he's back as much as you can count on any running back that's had injuries in the past. Physical position, I like him a lot more in redraft leagues than I do dynasty leagues. Like way more willing to invest a first round picking him in a 1 year league, like a dynasty league. Looking like what he did last year, over 1,600 total yards, had 10 touchdowns. As far as like from a real life perspective, I think the Giants go as far as to carry him. If he regresses or gets injured again, I think that we're going to see Daniel Jones go back closer to that 2021 for him. I would say he's safe. I think once he's healthy, he's going to get as many carries as he can handle. And like, unlike Pollard, I think he is built to handle 25, 30 touches a game. Especially if he can continue looking as explosive as he did last year. I would say safe. I give the stamp of approval in the top 10.
Yeah, I agree. I think, now he's a couple years removed from the injuries. I think we're good to go with him. The one thing that's interesting is he didn't get any receiving touchdowns. So it's very possible we could see him creep into like the 13, 14 touchdown range.
Yeah.
10 rushing touchdowns isn't anything to sneeze at, but you would expect him to be involved in some of the red zone work for receiving, but he really wasn't last year. Like red zone receptions for him, none last year.
That's crazy.
He had one target in the red zone. Like how do you do that with this guy?
I mean, yeah, it's not even like they had like a big receiving back behind him. Like
they didn't even have the receivers to not involve him in the red zone. That is beyond bizarre, and I feel like that's going to change. However, as you said, they brought in Waller, so maybe not. I don't know. It's just something maybe Dable doesn't want to do, which doesn't make any sense. Get your best player the ball, in my opinion. So, Oh well. If he were to go down, anybody?
Yeah.
Who's your next man up?
So it can sound a little weird from a redraft perspective, but I'm going to go with Eric Gray, rookie out of Oklahoma, led the Big 12 in rushing last year.
Yeah.
Was decent as a pass catcher, had 33 catches for a little over 220 yards. It wasn't like a Eric Hole or Jahmyr Gibbs type receiver, but he was productive there. And I think that's the best chance to get on the field early is those passing downs. Pretty good as a pass blocker. I really, really liked his college tape. You can get him almost for free in leagues right now. I mean, Matt Breida, he's had like one decent year in like 8 years in his entire career. I'm not a buyer in him. Like I would much rather just take Eric Gray and stash him now and just wait and see what happens. Obviously, we're not hoping for a Saquon injury, but I do think that if he went down to Gray, is going to be the more productive back there. I think I'd rather have Brightwell than Breida at this point, honestly, too, just because he's a little bit better as a pass catcher. So Eric Gray is going to be the guy that I'm going on here. Again, rookie is always risky for redraft, but I do think that he's a lot more explosive and is a lot versatile than anything we've ever seen out of Breida. I mean, I believe he's like almost 30 now, so it's not like he's a new guy or anything.
He is 28.
28, okay.
He's getting up there.
Basically 30 in running back years.
Especially for running backs. Yeah. So, all right, over to the receiving room. As we said, very, very crowded room here. After Darius Slayton, the depth chart is, your guess is yeah. I have it right now. Parris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, rookie Jalen Hyatt, and Jamison Crowder. This is going to be interesting. Clearly not all of them can play at the same time. I think easy to say Slayton's kind of like the number one, like de facto number one. You agree with that?
Maybe. I don't know. I think of this group, if I'm just picking one, I'm going to go Hodgins actually. a little bit risky just because he didn't really come on till the end of the year when everybody kind of started to get hurt, but he looked good out there. He was, I think, the most well-rounded receiver of all these guys. I'm not going to say like the fastest or the most explosive, but like he can do a little bit of everything well. Once he stepped in, that's kind of when the Giants offense stabilized, and then they kind of went on their run towards the end of the year. Don't feel great about it, but yeah, I think I would go Hodgins. Then I think I'd actually go Campbell and Slayton. Yeah. I mean, if Sterling Shepard is healthy, I mean, he's been productive every time he's on the field too. It's just they definitely went the quantity over quality for this wide receiver.
I mean, I think it's because like every single one of these guys has injury issues, so it's just kind of like they just need a lot.
Yeah, just spam the position.
Spam the position. Yeah, that's funny. I don't have the single receiver higher than 68 in my rankings.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Almost impossible to outside of like Scott Fish where we draft 22 rounds, right, and those kind of best ball, I'm probably not having any of these guys after draft day in a normal house league type of thing. It's just not going to happen. I really just don't. Like, I'd rather take my chances on like a Curtis Samuel around the same range. Like, there's just when you've got 8 guys, you don't have any guys. Like that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think they really need, at least. They need Hyatt to step up in this group. If Hyatt can be as productive as he was that last year in college, like then this changes a lot of things. But I almost like his teammate Cedric Tillman better coming out of the draft. I think his 2021 tape was really impressive. Hyatt's not a super big guy. He's kind of sleight of friend. I will say though, if I'm going best ball, I think I'm swinging on him, just hoping that some of that college translation goes. But like you said, I don't want to count on any of these guys as a big starter.
Yeah, I mean. You want Wan'Dale Robinson? He's electric. Hyatt also kind of the same deal. The thing with Hyatt that gets me is he comes from the Tennessee like super spread offense that was just like uber productive, man.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say like is that going to translate to the NFL for any of those guys? I mean that happens with quarterbacks all the time, right? Like they have such good stats, such good tape, but they're throwing into these like massive holes in the defense because it's such a crazy offense, and. Hooker, Hendon Hooker is kind of in that same realm. It's like, yeah, he looked really good at Tennessee. Don't get me wrong, but is it going to translate to the NFL? And we're going to obviously have to wait and see for him because he won't even play this year. But that's going to be something, and Hyatt's right there with him. But yeah, I just this is such a weird room. It's hard to trust any of them for fantasy. Slayton, Robinson, Hodgins, probably the top 3 for me. Shepard, I feel like could be if he could just stay on the field, but
he's good every time he's on.
He's so good. He's so reliable, but he's now just always injured. So, all right, let's finish up here with the tight ends. And as we said, they signed Darren Waller over the offseason here. They still got Daniel Bellinger, who's talented, and then Lawrence Cager rounds out the room here. What's your expectations with Waller? He's been injured over the last couple of years, off and on. Obviously, he's had amazing seasons, amazing stretches of games there for Oakland and Vegas, but hasn't played all 16 games since 2020. Has missed 8 games in each of the past 2 seasons, or 8 and 5 in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then now he's going from Derek Carr, who. Let's be real, is a better passer than Daniel Jones.
Oh, that's a great
hands
passer,
down.
definitely.
So like he's going from, Carr to Daniel Jones, who now also has 8,000 receivers to throw to, and Saquon. What's the expectations for Waller here?
Okay, so like you mentioned, hasn't played all 16, and I haven't sat down to do projections yet, but my first guess is I'm going to guess he comes in, assuming he can play 15, 16 games, it doesn't hurt again, around 70 catches for 750 yards and 5 scores. Like that being said, I think that's like kind of the ceiling of what you can expect there. Only had 28 catches, under 400 yards and 3 scores. He's turning 31 this year, like you said, missed a couple years. Missed a few games each of the last few years. I do think that if he's healthy, he's the guy that's going to lead the team in targets. And I'm okay investing on him, like where he's going, like 6th, 7th, 8th round in a lot of drafts. So I'm okay with this cost right now. But he is a guy that if I'm counting on him as my first tight end, I kind of want to stoop in and grab a second tight end kind of near the top of like that back end, or the top of like the tight end 2 group there, just so I have like a better safe option just in case he does get hurt. If he's healthy, I think he's going to be the receiver, pass catcher you want in this offense. It's just, how much risk do you like to take on?
Yeah, right now I've got him ranked as tight end 7 in half PPR.
Sounds about right.
Right in front of Ingram and Freiermuth, who, feel a little more touchdown dependent than Waller, because Waller can make it happen with just reception and yards. But it will be interesting. But again, the risk is baked into that position, I feel like, in my rankings and his ADP, because there's injury, there's a lot more competition now than there was in Vegas. So it's just, do you feel comfortable taking that? Obviously Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle, Hawk, all those guys ahead of him. And then do you want to go ahead and take the risk on Waller? Or do you want to wait and take the Ingram and the Freiermuth or the Njokus or the Schultz or the Kincaids or stuff like that? Like, I almost probably am going to pass on Waller in a lot of drafts at that point, just because the guys after him I feel like aren't going to be that much more all that different.
Yeah. In general, I wait on tight end as well too. So I would agree with that in general. Like, the one thing I will say is a lot of the leagues I play in are tight end premium. And I do like him a little bit more there. I do think if you're saying who's the one guy that could kind of jump into like that tier of the top 4, it would be Waller out of all these guys. Like, I don't think he's ever going to come close to like Kelsey or anything like that. But if you're talking about the guy that could kind of finish within that top 4 and knock one of those guys out, I think he has the best out of any of the tight ends this year. Unless what we saw like that last 4 or 5 games of the year with Evan Ingram is real and he's just Trevor Lawrence's guy now. Waller is my best bet to make that big jump, I think, there. But before we move on here, I mean, Daniel Bellinger, I think he's kind of been left for dead just because, the big signing or the big move they made was trading for Waller, which, I mean, he's going to be the starter. Like, let's get that out of the way right there. But you see more and more teams kind of shifting to using the more 2 tight end sets, especially like ones like this where both of the tight ends are threats to catch passes.
Absolutely.
He was starting to break out last year, and then I think broke his eye socket or something crazy like that. But up until that point, he caught like every single target except for 5, had 268 yards and a couple scores. So I think he's got like a sneaky tight end 2 value. Like, I think he's like one of the few tight end handcuffs where if you get Waller, it makes sense to kind of prioritize drafting his backup, just because I think he's going to have a role some weeks on his own. And then if Waller does go down, I think that he could step in and kind of be the one pass catcher out of the rookie last year that could really kind of step up and take another huge step forward.
Yeah, I ended up I like him a lot more in Dynasty than I do on redraft. I actually made a trade this year in the offseason. I ended up trading Kittle. My team's rebuilding. I traded Kittle for the 105 and Bellinger. It was just like, yeah, sure, I'll take Bellinger as a freebie throw-in at this point.
Yeah, and get top 5.
Yeah, and so, I figured, I'll hope that it just kind of works out. Second-year tight end, maybe break through a little bit, even with Waller there. Just gets another year under his belt with a guy like Waller being there. But, yeah, I'm with you. Waller's the guy. Bellinger's sort of like the backup, in case of injury. You're not taking both of them in a draft, but as soon as if Waller does go down, Bellinger's obviously a guy you're going to want to take a look at. So, all right, that is it for the New York Giants fantasy football team preview. I want to thank you for watching, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. Go over to Fantasy Six Pack, become an All Access member today.
Do it. See ya.